Good morning and welcome to the Senior Hour, which is sponsored by Comfort Keepers in Home Care and Advanced Audiology. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host,
Dr. Gene Dorio,
on your hometown station AM 1220 KHTS. This is a show for, about, and by seniors, giving information to enhance one's quality of life. And our guest this morning is the illustrious,
I like that.
illustrious Dr. Thomas Polucki, who is a local chiropractor. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
And before we get started, I want to tell everybody what a wonderful birthday party I had Sunday. It was amazing.
It was fun.
It was, wasn't it?
It was.
And Carl Goldman outdid himself. As far as I was roasted.
No, you were roasted.
Carl Goldman.
You look a little tan today.
Adele McPherson, Bill Lyons, and my son Scott.
Oh, how
And
fun.
oh my goodness. And Scott said to me after it was all over, he said, Mom, he said, if you're going to do this again and you're going to be roasted, be sure and put Carl at the end. Because he really, really uplifted everybody. He was
great.
He was hysterical. He really was. He came in, he got up, he had a fuzzy hat on, one of
You mean a
those
Barbara
long,
look-alike?
Yes, one of those long scarves.
The boa and the gloves.
And gloves. It was really incredible. And one of my grandson-in-laws came up to me after it was over. He said, Nanny, he said, the mayor gave you an proclamation and he actually had his arm around you. He said, the mayor of Santa Clarita? I said, yes. I said, he's been a friend of mine for a long, long time, as everybody who was there.
Yeah.
I had family and friends, and it was incredible. We had a final count of 95 people there.
Wow.
It was amazing.
More than 80 your age.
Well, and it was incredible because Kelly's banquet facility in Friendly Valley did an incredible job, didn't they?
Yeah, it was nice.
The food was outstanding. The service was outstanding. The decorations were from Kim Karowski. She has the balloon company out here. She decorated every table with beautiful balloons. And she said, Barb, she says, I can't attend, but I'd like to give you a birthday present. Do you mind if I decorate with balloons?
That's
and
great.
The balloons were beautiful. They really made the place. But enough about me. It's our guest, Dr. Thomas Polucki.
Yeah. So I was worried I wasn't going to be able to make it to the party.
I know.
Because that whole weekend and going back as far as Thursday, I spent with a room of some of the biggest brains on the planet. Like literally the names in brain research worldwide were at this. Dale Bredesen is professor at UCLA and UCFC and UCSD. I mean, he is one of the world's leading authorities on brain research. Specifically, his specialty is the aging brain and Alzheimer's. And his book that's coming out in, I believe it is late spring of this coming year, is going to revolutionize the way we look at this. And very, very eye-opening. All of the theories that we've held on to about Alzheimer's for the past 40 years, give or take, are going to just be exploded. They're not real at all. One of the biggest components that a lot of people still hold on to is the amyloid theory. It doesn't exist. There are amyloid plaques in healthy brains and occasionally no plaques at all in Alzheimer's brains. It actually has nothing to do with the disease process whatsoever.
But we used to always say that, but we had no understanding of how it might cause the problem.
Right.
And when you don't have cause and effect, then your theory collapses.
Absolutely. Currently, and this is from Professor Bredesen, not me, he does not feel Alzheimer's is even a disease, even though it is the move shifted up to the number 3 killer in American society, the number 3 killer, quote unquote, disease. He does not believe it is a disease at all.
Is
What
it
does he
just a
call
factor
it?
of aging?
Not exactly.
Is it genetic?
Not exactly.
Let's see.
He believes
Is that
currently.
Gatorade?
Yeah, that's it. It's Gatorade. You're in trouble. He believes that there are over, at current, their level of understanding of this, there are 100 different factors involved. And unfortunately, to get research funded in this country, the only way that you're going to get the grants, that you're going to get any kind of funding done at university level or any other means, is if you can say that, okay, this pill is going to take care of this problem, so that somebody can make some money off it and the tail end, because research is expensive. And he shared his frustration with that. He said, with over 100 different factors that contribute to any disease process, but specifically Alzheimer's and the aging brain, this is not a philosophy. You cannot deal with these 100 factors with any pill. He said, the best we've been able to come up with so far is handling 2 or 3 at a time. And that is a major coup, to be able to handle 2 or 3 of the aspects with one formulation, with one drug. And he said the idea of being able to handle this problem pharmacologically is not possible. It's just not possible, because there's too many things that contribute to it. And the new research, the new science that is largely coming from not so much the pharmaceutical research, but from people who are working outside of that system, people who are using technologies now available that actually measure brain volume. Like an MRI won't show you whether someone has Alzheimer's or not until it's so advanced that there's actually literally holes in the brain to see it.
Wow.
However, a special kind of MRI, a volumetric measurement of MRI called neuroquant.
What does volumetric mean?
It means it actually measures, you measure how much tissue is present in the brain. There are very specific measurements done with this technology, and you're looking at parts of the brain that are growing or shrinking at any given time. So this new technology, this neuroquant technology, is shifting everything we know about the brain. How and what Professor Bredesen was talking about, the way to get a handle on Alzheimer's is before the disease is present. We can measure. The problem is this neuroquant technology is not cheap. To send somebody for this, they better have real good insurance. It's actually measuring different areas in the brain that we know are affected by the disease, and seeing how much brain tissue is there, how much brain tissue is present at the time, because these areas of the brain will either shrink or grow depending on where the disease stage is at, or it's not a disease. In fact, he says that Alzheimer's should be reclassified as an adaptive condition. It is your body's response to compounded insults, whether it be environmental or chemical or physical or even emotional stress, internal chemistry from hormones being out of balance and poor nutrition. And one of the big things is sugar. It may be reclassified ultimately as type 3 diabetes.
Wow.
That's sugar balances are a huge contributing factor.
Isn't that interesting?
So yeah, I was just blown away.
Because you figure sugar, you associate that with diabetes only.
Yeah.
You know, normally.
Right.
So this is a major factor then.
Sure.
Wow.
So let's get back to the technology, the neuroquant technology, and what that encompasses, and why insurance companies might not pay for it, but what what it is. Is it X-ray or
It is a
is it
form of
MRI?
MRI, but it is a very
of
specific
MRI.
volumetric quantitative analysis, neuroquant. You're measuring the volume of very specific areas in the brain, and we're mapping out those areas and checking how much tissue is present here. And here's the beautiful thing. With this new technology, we're seeing cures. We're seeing cures of Alzheimer's, which previously thought impossible.
There is no cure. Yes,
Yeah,
that's what
because
they say.
first of all, because it's not a disease.
It's not a disease. So if it
Secondly,
isn't a disease,
Professor Bredesen and the book that is coming out in I believe early spring or late spring of 2017 is going to just change the way that we look at this process.
but you're going to
completely.
have a lot of naysayers, though.
Of course.
Oh.
And here's the thing. In early stages, there are a lot of people who are just uncomfortable with change because they don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to want to stick to what they do understand, even if it's wrong. And that's human nature.
Right.
But after the facts are so clearly presented to any situation, the people who actually think and don't just emotionally respond are going to get on board with this.
Mm-hmm.
And then the only outliers will be the people who are paid to disrupt the proper channels. And that's a whole nother conversation.
And that's a very, very large area.
There's
to
too much
cover.
money involved in
Yes.
doing things that don't really solve a problem, and I'm not going to get into that conversation unless you really want to, to really get anywhere. What was so interesting to me was not the amazing research and progress that they've made in these areas of brain research, but that these people essentially, when you get to a certain level in medicine, they are my comrades so much, because the overwhelming majority of medical doctors have the golden handcuffs of the AMA.
Mm-hmm.
They can only operate within the system. They can only prescribe protocols that are accepted by the universities, that are funded by the research, that are funded through the pharmaceutical, and you can only bill for insurance what's going to get paid for.
Well,
but when
that's
you get
true.
to a certain level where you're above that, where you can name your price and you can do what you want to do, they're talking much more like me on a functional level than they are of a philosophy. And I love that. I wish I would have coined that term, but this is coming from the highest level of medical research. They're saying that health is not a philosophy. You cannot deal with these things. With pharmacology, you can't. There is not a magic pill.
It's not a singular solution.
Yeah.
It's not a singular cure for Alzheimer's. It's multifocal that we have to determine. I'm not paid by a pharmaceutical company, nor am I a naysayer. I'm a scientist. So I look at the information that's put out and try to dissect through it. Recently, I wrote an article on the ambiguity of diagnosing brain death. And because of that, I'm going to a conference in San Diego in November where there will be 30,000 brain researchers from around the world who will be talking about coma and brain death, but also about Alzheimer's and how they're doing research into that. I know fMRIs, functional MRIs, are a big topic out there because that's at the cutting edge, but I'm interested to find out how the neuroquam is being analyzed and how that's going to help us, and see what research is going to be presented there as well.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if Professor Bredesen is going to be at your...
I would think so, because he is
I'm sure
like the leading authority on Alzheimer's research.
I'll
Well,
look him up tonight and find out, see if he'll be there.
Does that have anything to do with dementia?
Sure.
So it's all really connected, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's by definition. Dementia is the broad picture of memory loss. Alzheimer's is one of those areas of dementia, that broad picture.
Okay.
So you have different kinds of dementia, including Alzheimer's.
Okay.
So when
And
we look at dementia, I mean, we could be talking about the same thing in terms of what Dr. Bredesen is
Sure.
doing. You know, as opposed to saying it's just based on Alzheimer's and curing Alzheimer's, we're curing dementia, or at least trying to keep it away from us and make it curable, or at least better, so that people don't go into it as fast.
Yeah, it comes down to brain material is being lost in the process, and if you can get an early handle on it and deal with it functionally, address whatever chemical insult is going on, whether that be from a biological agent like some kind of low-grade infection, whether it be a metabolic imbalance, something like sugar, something like chronic inflammation, something like anything that's going to interfere with the blood flow and the cerebrovascular fluid, cerebral spinal fluid, and the blood-brain barrier, anything that's going to compromise the full oxygenation and exchange of the brain material ultimately is going to lead to some kind of an adaptive response of the brain, which may not be beneficial to the patient. It's just the best that the brain can do under the circumstances.
But the question then has to be, is it reversible?
According to Dr. Bredesen, it is.
You know, that's what our hope would be, that we can figure out all the problems going on in the brain, quantitate it, and then do the things we need to do, is seeing if that part of the brain increases its density, increases its weight, and functions again.
Yeah. So according to him, yes, there are documented cases of reversal, which is unheard of up until now.
That's very interesting. Well, we need to take a break, but when we come back, let's talk about early ways that we can help combat this.
Absolutely.
You know, from an early age in people's lives. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Jean Dorio, on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.